Greetings. Welcome to ITR Live. I'm your host, Chris Hagan. We're back here at Studio 130 at ITR headquarters in Central Iowa. I am joined here again with everyone's favorite John Hendrickson for another exciting, fun-filled episode of Iowa's favorite conservative podcast. Did I get it all right that time, John?
Yes, yeah.
Good. All right. We've probably have too much to talk about today. So are you ready to roll?
I am.
Good. Okay. So I'm going to start out with something that wasn't even in my production notes here, John, but headline I'm getting this from the Wall Street Journal. Rescue crews race against time to locate missing Titanic submersible. So have you followed this one?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any interest in ever taking a submersible down to visit the wreckage of the Titanic?
Probably not. No.
13,000 feet.
Yeah.
So apparently this submersible craft where you can, if you're a billionaire tourist, you can actually buy a $250,000 ride down to see the Titanic. So it took 60 some years for us to actually locate the Titanic, but we're gonna find this little tube-sized submersible in the next 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it. It just sounds like an absolutely miserable way to go out.
Yes, yeah. And I forget was it how many hours of air did they have in reserve?
I saw it was 72 as of last night, but they could maybe stretch it a little bit.
Yeah. That has to be scary for those folks. I mean,
I'm sure it's awful, unless it just. But they said that even if it exploded or something happened to it, that would have created enough of a seismic event they could have noticed that.
Yeah. So
they don't believe that it exploded or collapsed or whatever, but they said it could have had a power blackout, fire, or flood, or it could have become entangled in something wonderful. So a couple of things that just made this a little bit creepier, John. The primary control of the Titan, the name of the submersible, is a PlayStation controller.
Wow.
That enables the pilot to direct the submersible. Next quote: if there's a software crash that we can't rely on and the computer behind it, you would rely on something more rustic.
Yeah.
So, the idea of them piloting this thing down to the bottom of the ocean with a PlayStation controller is a little disconcerting. It was, then some other criticisms about the build quality of this and everything. So, I don't know. Just, I can't imagine anyone's very optimistic about finding this thing down at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know why they don't have some homing beacon or something that tells them where it is, but that's interesting. So I suppose there's all kinds of analogies we could make with the Titanic and submersibles floating to some of our current politics, but none of them are coming to me at this time. No. So we'll let our listeners fill in the blanks or email in or leave a comment about what's the real hard hitting analogy there that would have made everyone giggle that I forgot to come up with. So I'll leave it to that. John, you had one. You in your own way were a little fired up about something you saw on one of the morning shows this weekend.
Yes, yeah, it was. I believe it was CBS, whatever their morning news show is, the national one.
That's inconsequential.
Yeah, and they had and this was I think last week sometime, but they had the former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, on from Wisconsin, and basically he had made the statement that he wasn't they asked him about some of the cultural issues going on, and he said, well, basically, I'm not quoting him verbatim, but he said, I'm not a cultural warrior, and those issues tend to divide, and he said, I want my focus to be on the debt crisis and poverty issues, and I just thought that was interesting because he referred to himself as a never Trumper, which is no surprise. Sure. I mean, that's where he's been, but it just kind of illustrated that you still have a wing of the Republican Party that does not want to acknowledge the seriousness of the cultural divide and some of these cultural issues that are going on, not just here in Iowa but across the nation. And so, Ryan is still holding on to the old, what I call the Bush, McCain, Romney,
right,
Ryan, old Republican Party that want
on the idea of this culture warrior. Everyone else is talking about it, Mr. Speaker. I mean, you might not want to, but the vast majority of the left is certainly intent on having this conversation in your kid's classroom or wherever else.
Yeah.
And a great many Republican voters are wanting to have this conversation. Now, on the other hand, I'd like to give him some credit for being the unicorn in Washington, D.C. that actually wants to talk about the federal debt.
Yes.
Now, I would like to say, hey, there's somebody out there that cares because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
However, as you pointed out, Speaker Ryan was Speaker for several years, and how much progress did he make on the federal debt?
Nothing, really.
Oh, okay. All right. So he really just wants to talk about the federal debt, even though when he actually held the levers of power, he didn't do anything about the federal debt.
Yes.
So I'm left wondering, what does he really even want to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the debt is a serious issue, as we've talked about, but we need a Republican Party that not only takes on these cultural issues, but also takes on the debt issue. And the other thing is I think it's fascinating how, I would say, hypocritical some Republicans are, just like Speaker Ryan. And to his credit, he did introduce some bills while he was chairman of the Budget Committee that tried to rein in entitlements. But when the Republicans had control in the first year of the Trump presidency, they didn't address spending, just like they didn't address spending when they were in control when George W. Bush was president.
And remember, that was with Republicans with complete control of Washington, D.C.
That's right. Yeah.
No one to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. That, I do believe that Paul Ryan probably does care about the debt and probably did try some things. Mm-hmm. So, to be fair. But when you hear a line like that, there's really two kinds of folks that when they start talking about how they want to work on fiscal issues, they either sometimes really do care and want to work on it, but a lot of times that's just a crutch.
Yes.
And it's just an excuse because they don't want to do the hard stuff.
You're absolutely right.
Because what American is going to say, oh, don't work on the federal debt, that's controversial. No, everyone does. You can get a vast majority of Democrats to say the federal debt's probably a bad thing. Now, they don't want to do anything to fix it. Mm-hmm. But that is the safest political ground there is. Oh, I just want to work on the federal debt and poverty. Who disagrees with that?
That's
Give me
right.
a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're serious, tell me what you're cutting. Mm-hmm. Come right on up with it.
Yeah.
Until you do that, then you're just waffling and giving me reasons why you can't do anything hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, and I think they're, in some ways, I think he thinks he's trying to capture a safe middle ground on as a Republican and trying to just focus on economic issues and poverty but it's whether one likes it or not, these cultural issues are here, and whether you want to deal with them or not, most people, that's why our governor got reelected in a landslide, and same with Governor DeSantis down in Florida, because they're taking these issues head on. And
as others have said before me, you will be made to care.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's coming.
Yeah.
So you can dodge it and talk about how you just want to work on poverty.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you have to care.
That's right.
And it's coming.
Yeah.
So, so next up, John, I kind of keeping it on some Iowa issues. I noticed an article in the. I've seen this, I think, on the news at night, but we'll go with the Des Moines Register here. But this deal in Warren County that the Democrats are just apoplectic, that their Democrat county auditor resigned, and the Republican Board of Supervisors did not install her hand-picked successor. The gall that a Republican board did not pick a Democrat for a vacancy. And so now they're gone full cancel on this person who I don't know, David Whipple, a Republican construction operations manager. So to serve as the county auditor. But it's remarkable that the link they're going to here because they didn't pick the hand-picked successor. And that's what they actually say in the article, is van der Linden, a Democrat, had trained her deputy in the office for several years to take over for her when she left.
Yeah.
You know who gets to decide who takes over with you? People and their elected representatives. I mean, we will have an election.
Yeah.
If she is that qualified, then why don't we take it to the voters next fall?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the people that stand in the shoes of the voters until that next election, the Board of Supervisors, are going to have some fidelity to the voters that actually elected them and picking a Republican.
That's right.
Not your smoke-filled backroom successor.
Yeah.
But because that's so awful that they decided to do that, we're just going to go and comb through Mr. Whipple's social media history. And I don't even know apparently there's some 2020 election stuff, QAnon stuff. I don't even know what's in there. But my guess is it's as one of the Republican Board of Supervisors said in the article, relatively benign. But yet don't let that stop us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just had to get that off my chest, John. I'm sorry. I don't know that there's a big takeaway there, but give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine if it was flipped around? If you had a Democrat Board of Supervisors and a Republican executive position, you really think they're going to put the Republicans' hand-picked successor? Do you really think a Democrat Board of Supervisors was going to do that?
I'm sure that would happen in Johnson County.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, let's just go ahead now. We need fidelity to the people that that were there before. We got to let them hold on to these like their royal titles and bequeath them to their successors. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's so big news today. Just in the last hour or two, the Hunter Biden indicted and is going to plead guilty to some tax charges and a firearms charge. Do you think that sums up every qualm you have about Hunter Biden and the Biden family?
No,
doesn't quite get it all the way there.
No, and they're probably hoping this will move on, but I think some of the investigations that are going down in the House right now, in the U.S. House, is going to expose much larger stuff of the Bidens, and especially with the taking foreign money and.
Well, I haven't had a chance to read it all, but I think what goes on in the House of Representatives is probably all that's left on the issue, because this was a handpicked. Interestingly, this indictment was in federal district court in Delaware. So the Biden's home with his handpicked U.S. attorney that indicted and got a plea from Hunter Biden all on the same day. It's not like we're going to file charges, go through the process, and then down the road, Hunter Biden comes in and pleads. This is all right out of the gate, and here's the plea deal.
Yeah.
And so it was felony charges on this, but if it's pled down to a misdemeanor, so he gets probation and promises not to use crack for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually in the plea deal.
Maybe he can do some of his paintings in the probation.
So if he can keep clean for a couple years, it all goes away. Now, I haven't read, but I would not be surprised if somehow that loops in all the other even far worse things that were found in the laptop and everything else. He's probably given some sort of an assurance that he won't be prosecuted on those as well. And so this all just gets brushed away.
Yeah.
One news cycle, gone, no jail time, done.
Yeah. And it's, we've seen this before with the Clintons. I mean, so much stuff is swept under the rug and forgotten. And whether it's smashing phones and servers and giving them acid baths.
And this is what we talk about. Whether the indictment against President Trump is valid or not. And it may be. But when we talk about equal justice under the law, and this is what we're talking about.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's clearly a double standard.
Sure.
I mean, that's why people are so frustrated, and they don't trust the system anymore because of this.
Okay, so final issue is one that I want to touch on, John, because it is something that I care a lot about and worked on, and we're going to spend some more time on this later, even though, look, we're Iowans for tax relief, we care about fiscal issues, but was last Friday, the Iowa Supreme Court released their decision on the appeal on the fetal heartbeat bill. And so a little backstory here. When the fetal heartbeat bill was initially passed, goes into court, and at that time, under the current analysis, was unconstitutional. So the district court said, we're going to put an injunction on this. It never went into effect. So then subsequently, the Iowa Supreme Court's jurisprudence on this has evolved, and then culminating with the U.S. Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision. So the state of constitutional law has changed. So then there was the appeal, like, hey, okay, let's revisit this and appeal this injunction. Goes up to the Iowa Supreme Court, and in a split decision with one justice abstaining or recusing herself, is a split decision. Therefore, they did not take action because there wasn't a majority decision. The district court's injunction remains, and the Iowa's fetal heartbeat bill remains enjoined. I'm really frustrated at this for a number of reasons, John. One, I was the House Majority Leader when we passed the heartbeat bill the first time.
Yeah.
I put quite a bit of work into that bill to get it passed. So that's one. I care about the issue personally, and I'd like to see that law on the books. But that's a little outside of the scope of what we do in this organization, this podcast. But there is a part of this that I think is especially important, even beyond the issue and not diminishing the issue itself, but is what this court continues to do to try and micromanage the legislature and continues to try and ascertain the intentions and the motivations of the legislature. And that is really dangerous territory. And we talked about it before when Justice Waterman had an opinion on the right of first refusal bill. And we talked about how the court was going in and analyzing floor debate.
Yes.
And the timing and when they did things and the processes, that all of that was relevant as to whether or not they thought the law was constitutional. Well, we took another giant leap forward here. Now, this was a 3-3 decision, so none of this really carries the force of law yet, but 3 justices voted for another Waterman decision here, which goes right down the same path. I think even further. But Justice Waterman begins by expressing a great deal of frustration that he even had to write an opinion in this and tell people what he was thinking. But the gist of it is he is trying to assert that the fetal heartbeat bill really was only a hypothetical law because legislators at that time knew that it was probably unconstitutional, so it was just hypothetical and it didn't count. Have you ever heard of a hypothetical law before, John?
No.
I mean...
No. This is a good example of judicial activism.
Well, exactly. It is what it is. If Justice Waterman wants to legislate, he's welcome to step down from the Iowa Supreme Court and run for the Iowa House, the Iowa Senate.
Yes.
It's really easy to do.
Yeah.
You need 50 signatures on a petition, put your name on the ballot. And you can tell those folks out there what you think the legislature should do and what they mean to do. Go ahead.
I was started to read. I haven't read all of it, but Justice McDonald's start of his opinion. I don't know if that's the correct word to describe this, but
it was.
But I thought he did a really good job, kind of going into separation of powers and striking the balance of the proper role for the court and the legislative branch and even the executive branch and so I
agree. I thought that was brilliant stuff and spot on. I also loved the McDermott opinion because it's a brief, succinct statement of some of these things that I'm talking about on his comments on this. Waterman goes on to say that one of the reasons that the fetal heartbeat bill, that they weren't serious about that, is because they didn't subsequently pass a constitutional amendment saying there's no fundamental right to an abortion, or that a majority of current legislators didn't sign the amicus brief to the court. I mean, there's not a standard anywhere that's ever been used on this kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
But here we have a member of the Iowa Supreme Court, 3 of them, saying that this is now the standard, is that we're going to go in and count how many people file an amicus brief to ascertain whether the legislature was serious or not. You know, the only criteria for determining whether the General Assembly was serious about a law is whether they got 51 votes in the House, 26 votes in the Senate, and the governor signed it.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is the only criteria that the court gets to use to decide. It is the 4 corners of the document and whether it was duly enacted. Done.
Yeah.
And if the court wants to go further, they shouldn't be surprised when the legislature starts coming in and trying to dictate terms to them in their own separate branch of government. I learned that on Schoolhouse Rock in the 1970s, and they're going to learn the lesson now, one way or the other.
Yeah.
This is dangerous territory.
Yeah.
I gotta read from the McDermott opinion. Talking about this whole notion of the court micromanaging the legislature. So instead of analyzing the law as a law, they, the 3 other justices, offer conjecture about the intentions of elected representatives that pass the law. John Adams has been credited with declaring that ours is, quote, a government of laws, not men, end quote. But our colleagues flip it and add a twist, that ours is a government not of laws, but a court's view of legislators' motivations when they pass laws. And that's exactly what's going on here. And it's troubling. And the reason I bring it up, one, just because I'm frustrated and it's my podcast and I could talk about whatever I want to talk about, but it's a separation of powers. Which branch of government? I mean, we were all taught in school that we're separate but equal branches of government. Mm-hmm. I would suggest that maybe that's not really the way our founders intended it at the federal level. That really the Supreme Court is subject, is secondary to the legislature. Mm-hmm. But whatever. But this is judicial supremacy.
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Full stop. The Supreme Court sees themselves, or these 3 justices, as supreme over the other branches of government, and it's not the case. It's not the way it was meant to be, and this is going down an incredibly dangerous path.
Yeah, I agree.
This state,
I think,
and frankly, credit to the legislature for as restrained as they have been so far in their response, because they would be absolutely righteous in some pretty severe repercussions towards the court. So anyway, I guess on the issue, I'd like to talk about it some more in future episodes, but I absolutely expect to see the legislature respond quickly and send it right back to the court, and then we'll see where things go. And then you'll have Justice Oxley, who was recused from the original case, and even as the McDermott opinion, the Waterman opinion reads, a decision, an issue this big should have all 7 justices ruling on it, and I agree. So we will go from there.
Yeah.
I will have much more to say on this, John, I promise. All right. We didn't even get to the Capitol Dispatch article, the opinion piece that was just bemoaning about how biased and one-sided the Iowa media is for Republicans.
Yeah,
we didn't even get to talk about that.
Yeah.
Just the absurdity of it all.
Yeah.
I can't, And what else? Yeah. And I suppose there's plenty more we could say about Hunter Biden. So, whew. That's a big one, John.
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
I did, yeah.
All right, good. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, folks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. And don't forget to ping us back. Email me and let me know what all the witty comebacks were that we missed out on with the Titanic piece. So, and with all of that, we will see you next time on ITR Live.